Hello, this is Pixie doing another video. So let's get out of this little area. It's like quite difficult. It's quiet as well. Yeah, basically, I was thinking about the sexualities of the human race, and I was doing some research. I did research into medicinal plants, and I was interested by cannabis in that fact there's male and female plants, and that you have they're basically no different than humans in that sense, and that they need to, a male plant needs to fertilise a female plant, and what happens in different situations, and and what happens when they don't have any male plants, because when people smoke it they prefer to use the buds, and as a result they don't want the male plants. They don't have any much use for them because they're only interested in sort of the one result, which kind of blindsides them to the potential of all the other good stuff about it. But that comes back to a different topic I can talk about in a little while. So what happens is you get certain classifications of hermaphrodites that get created, and they say it's due to stress was a factor, which was interesting, and possibly if you're in an all type of environment it may trigger certain things as well, behaviours and certain conditions. And then I was thinking about the humans, us as humans, and what is the natural state of, say, homosexuality, lesbians, and that sort of thing. What creates that sort of situation? There we go. So it's kind of like there's certain conditions that do create in the womb for the child. Stress is a trigger for ADHD, I believe, or what they consider ADHD, where the child's really proactive and it's probably been exposed to certain fear drugs and the hormones that have affected the child. So the child basically, before it's born, has developed certain traits to cope with this environment. So maybe with the humans is that they have basically have become a sort of hermaphrodite, ones that have decided to go down different routes of sexually. I mean, I know it's neurological, it's psychological, and I'm not saying in any way that it's so unnatural or it's a condition or something like that. I'm just saying it is a part of this natural cycle. If you're in a sort of male-dominated environment, potentially you might have someone becomes more feminine, and how far would that go? If you went to an environment, say you're an all-sex environment, and you forced everyone into this environment, would people go beyond that? Is it possible that nature would allow a male to adapt to a female? I don't know how that, I'm just sort of speculating what that could be. Or at least be able to have a child that's female, because if you didn't, it's the end of the species if you just have like one type of gender. I mean, same for women. I mean, if they developed male hormones, there could be a way to trigger. It was like the rumours and stories in the past about virgin births, and you kind of with science and what you learn, you think, well, that can't happen. And then sort of the religious thing, well, in God's dominion anything can happen, sort of. And so you're left wondering, is there a wrong, is there a right? What is the outcome? And I think there's possibly is middle ground, and there may be rare cases where people have certain qualities. And then you have the natural hermaphrodites that do exist, that have both sex organs. So in the same way, cannabis has what they call true hermaphrodites. Well, you've got different types of hermaphrodites. It's probably not so best to say true hermaphrodites, because then it's kind of still one of these weird sort of eugenic sort of areas. So you have ones that are cross-gender, so they basically do have both the male and female parts, can pregnate themselves. You could selectively pregnate them outside of that, but they have that ability naturally. And then you get the other ones that are females that are able to grow apart in order to fertilise themselves. I think they call them like bananas, they call them. And I think mainly it's because with plants there's a kind of pheromone system. There may be something else going on there, like they can pick up the aura or the energy of the plant, and trying to figure out, so possibly that could cross-relate to humans at certain levels. I mean, because you see people that are, typically they say, I'm gay, okay, and then there's ones you can read a mile off because they have very feminine traits about them, and they might be not just sociological, like I see myself as a woman, so I'm going to pick up their body language and use it. It's actually, they might have actually developed a female brain, which would explain a lot of things. But then where does it leave us as a society? I wouldn't want us to sort of force about, changes. Maybe they should accept that they are some sort of mixture between the two. Maybe that's the thing, rather than trying to reassign someone to be a woman or a man, or saying someone, I'm fluid sexual and all these other things. It gets very confusing. And I think maybe what you start out as and then what you grow into are maybe possibly two different things. It can get confusing if you rely on an education system. I mean, basically with your sexuality, it's a part of it's just programmed in there, and it's like an imperative in some way that you want to breed or connect with someone or feel love or whatever. And in certain circumstances, you will adapt to the environment. So if you're in an environment where, I don't know, there's just all gay males, then you may adapt certain qualities. You may have a sort of, even if you're not gay, you might be quite cuddly or whatever to men, who knows. And then on the flip side, it could be the same for women in some way. Would they want to live out an alternative way of thinking? And basically can live. Some people do live two lives at the same time. In that essence, they can be the mother, or try to take on sort of this stereotype, because it feels right, like you nurture a child in some way. It's not your child, or act in a particular way. But then outside of that, you may be somebody completely different. If that makes any sense. Just that we sometimes have instincts, and then we have also motivators, things that motivate us to act and believe in things in a certain way. And I guess the motivation would be pleasure and rewards, and what we choose, how we choose to read that. I mean, usually with pleasure there's a certain level of displeasure or discord, some form of challenge in order to achieve something. So I think that's possibly what I've learned from studying the cannabis plant. It's opened up what is the natural order of the species. But then on the flip side, if the population is becoming more gay, then it suggests there's possibly some problems in the dynamics, because it's substituting, if that's the right words or language, with other things. And I mean, I'm not sort of criticising anyone's choices. I'm not trying to be acting a sort of fear-mongered mindset, like phobia and so on, homophobia or whatever. It's just actually looking at the bare bones of it. because you don't want to be in a situation where people say, if you challenge their status quo or their beliefs because they like to see themselves in a higher sort of position, that they automatically attack you as being some sort of fascist or something, or immoral. So yeah, it's interesting, because I mean from my own family experience, that my nephew's gay, but nobody's admitting it or talking about it. It's one of these hidden things, and quite frankly, it's up to him. When he wants to sort of be a bit more open in that sense, but there's no point pretending he is. That's just ridiculous. I mean, he isn't, basically. Or whatever, you know. But otherwise, it's like, yes, I like women or whatever, and it's not really true. I'd rather live in this mindset of honesty than a sort of self-deception. But then we need to lie sometimes about things in order to get by. You know, we don't all tell everyone the truth. Sometimes, but you've got to live with that karma. That's the thing as well. And also, because I think before I was wondering about possibly that, say, somebody lived a female existence in a former life, and when they shifted over to a male body, maybe they still brought them across. I mean, it could be true. It could be they have preferences and so on. And I think if we also could understand the relationship with this hermaphrodite type of organic changes there, chemical changes in the brain, organic, would we want to change that, or would that be an option for people if they wanted to? However, they've kind of been selected biologically to function differently, and it may even also be a spectrum. So everyone could be potentially a type of well, we all start off as female, and that positions ourselves into a position of wanting to be nurtured, I guess, and then other phases come in when we're kind of created. So maybe we are, in essence, we start out as a bit of hermaphrodite anyway. This is why with children there should never be any pressure around conforming to sexuality. And when people say like transgender children and stuff, I think they're actually being stupid, because they should just allow the child to grow and adapt, and say, you know, it's a lot of pressure where you're going to be in life. Take your time, and when you're ready, you can come to that point where you're deciding how you feel about your sexuality. It's like when you're young, they say, well, what kind of job are you going to have? And that's massive. You think, Christ, will I be, I don't know. You know, you might think, well, I'd like to be like my dad, but then you must say, no. And what kind of fantasy one would you like? You know, I think there's so much pressure. Actually, you might turn around and say, yeah, an astronaut. But you haven't got a clue. Really, you don't actually. I just want to be a kid, you know, rather than I want to have a job. And you're a 10-year-old and someone's asking these questions. The same way, they might say, you know, now I've shown you a tape on gay people or whatever. How do you feel about that? And would you want to be gay when you're old? Imagine that, the amount of pressure, and the child doesn't know what that means. It's like, well, I haven't really thought about girls either, to be honest. You know, I've been more interested in TV and hanging out with my mates. So, and there's just a little bit of a sort of there's kind of a disassociation between the sexes. So they might have some crossover where they get along and they share interests, but their interests bond them. But you'd have other situations whereby if you saw a girl you don't know what to do, like when you're quite young, or you set up a kind of social thing where you might play kiss chase, but you play kiss chase normally with your opposite sex. I did have a friend in the past, and he played kiss chase, but he used to call himself the kissing machine. It was some weird game. However, it may be on his sort of it may be that he had an instinct for wanting to experiment and kiss boys, basically. I mean, later he became. Don't think he's bisexual. I think he actually is homosexual. but that was his decision. But there was kind of indicators from a young age. However, I think he did get punched because some kid said, let me go, and he sort of bear hugged him and snogged him on the face. Which he did not appreciate. Just destroy someone's reputation. And this was back in the 80s or whatever. So, you know, it's not negative and anti. We do live in a world where people want to paint themselves as victims. And that can be problematic because we need to just live as individuals and find the strength from within, rather than playing into social things as well. It's a bit like me, I'm sort of readdressing everything. I mean, at the moment I'm saying probably asexual, if anything. In the more sapio way as well, I mean, attracted people who are intelligent. I find pleasure in women. It kind of makes me hetero. I'm not aware of anything else. But we can, like I say, you can be on the whole spectrum. So at some lower level, you may enjoy the company of men in some way, or you may enjoy the company of women, or you may see women as friends, and you can have also a sexual relationship. Some people can't. Some women can't. They can't engage with other women, or they can't engage with other men. It's quite a mixture. Or they've got these predetermined judgments about the way they perceive gender, and some of it's stereotypes, some of it's pressure, things they learn from school, bad experiences. But you've got to get to a point in your life where you actually just throw all these like things out the window. You know, it's a bit like what your parents want you to do in life. And how controlling they are. They might get to a point where you think, hey, you know, hey, what's going on here? I'm now 30 or 40 or whatever, and you're still putting pressure on to do things in a certain way or whatever. It's a bit like when I started driving. I went from a bike to a motorbike, and my parents freaked out. My dad, in the past, crashed his motorcycle, and I said, hang on, but you haven't had any training. I've actually done all the compulsory training for it, and all the safety training, and I've got safety equipment. I'm not wearing a bloody, I'm not a mod and got a suit on, no helmet or whatever, or wearing a helmet. And I said, hang on, I think the rockers wore helmets, the mods didn't bother, but they used like the Vespers. And so yeah, so basically if I come off my scooter, it's not going to be quite the same situation as, because he had a crash. But then you didn't need to have any sort of training. You just, well, if you're old enough. Oh God, what's this? I can't tell what it is. Oh shit. That's jazz. Motorbike. I couldn't tell you. I thought it was a push bike. Talking about motorbikes, it's quite hard to see in the thing, but it looked a bit too bright for that and it didn't flash either. So yeah, parents in control, trying to nurture sort of old-fashioned beliefs and stuff like that. Yeah, there's something else actually as well. I've got some information put into my brain, I think, one of these downloads. So I do sometimes channel things through, and I don't really notice them there. I just think in a certain framework, so it feels different. Like I'm more on the ball, or more jovial, or whatever. Serious, or maybe I feel a bit more angry. So you can usually tell someone sort of give bad mouths you in some way or something, you might feel a bit more sensitive. But that might be like reptilian qualities and whatever else. Some of the stuff sort of withheld from me from knowing the full out of it. It's just sometimes things come through dreams and stuff. So yeah, so there's different information that's been sort of downloaded into my mind on different subjects. That seems quite sort of interesting. Various topics. I feel like I'm not supposed to talk about it. It's very weird. So what did I mention? I mentioned about the cannabis. That's right. Is that the actual, what we are is a nebula ganglion. That's what it was mentioned, like a consciousness from a nebula. And you can know what a neuron looks like. That's what we look like at a conscious level, like a ball of energy that has these projecting arms and so on coming out of it. So yeah, very interesting stuff. Anyway, this is Pixie sign off, and I'll speak to you soon.